Hello my gorgeous makeup loving friends. The year is 2025. The location, planet Earth. And it seems that despite it being the first week of the year, there's still quite a few new makeup releases to talk about. And it is a Saturday as you're watching, so you know what that means. Releases and rants, and it's the first one of 2025. I don't know how auspicious that is, but we'll take what we can get. As always, a massive thank you to everyone who has tagged me in content for this week. I hugely appreciate it. I will say it's a little bit slower and I kind of appreciate that. I'm actually cool with that. A massive thank you to my YouTube community members. You're fabulous. I mean, I'm going to fill you with compliments like I'm currently filled with Ferrero Rochers. You're going to be really uncomfortable. It's, you know, you're going to have to get a new pair of jeans is all I'm saying. But you know the reminder is coming. Get yourself a beverage. It's still technically the holidays, so get whatever you want. I'm having tea because some things never change. So make sure you stay hydrated and we'll get straight on into it. We have Mob Beauty who have done a collaboration with Courtney Quarantine, and this is their Grunge Core palette. Now what I will say is not only does she have this palette, but there's a couple of existing items that she's sort of curated and said, hey, you know, these are the things that I really enjoy, so if you like her, you'll probably know a little bit about this. Now, to the best of my understanding, these are existing shades and you can actually get all of these individually, but she has curated this to be its own palette. So there's 4 shades in it and they're kind of slightly different formulas. Some of them are like cream, some of them are more powder formulas, etc. It's retailing for $64, so keep that in mind. I have to say, I think this is quite interesting. So it comes in a biodegradable palette, and Courtney said, I love a mix of colour and grunge hues, and these are fundamental shades that are powerful and alluring with incredible performance in vegan, cruelty-free formulas. So here's the thing, I have heard so much about Mob Beauty. To the best of my knowledge, I believe it's headed or at least somewhat involved with the original creators of MAC Cosmetics, and that in and of itself makes me quite interested. Now, do I necessarily love this colour combination? Not really, simply because I'm not into reds on my eyes. That's just a personal preference. However, I have heard really strong things about their formula. The price tag of $64, I'll be honest with you, I don't think that's that bad when you think about it. Like, it's $16 a shade. Maybe I'm losing all track of things, but like, it's an indie brand. It's coming from like some very interesting formulations, and hey, we've seen more expensive for less innovative, so I'm not going to get annoyed about it. I like this idea of cream clay eyeshadow. Like, that sounds really interesting. Like, it's apparently part of their formula. I don't know, I like this. I think I'm more into the shades M170 and M168, which by the way you can get singularly if you are interested in those. Like, you can curate or create your own palette if you are interested. I've seen a couple of their lip liners and I kind of want these. The more I see from this brand, the more I'm like, I may have to get something from them at some point. This palette isn't necessarily it for me, simply because the colour story is not my jam, but she looks beautiful wearing it. Mind you, if you're that gorgeous, you can wear a bin bag and look spectacular. I like it that they've gone with somebody who obviously is very passionate about this sort of stuff. Now, I will say I don't know anything about Courtney Quarantine. I apologise. I'm just not very now or with it, etc. But I think it actually looks really nice, and when you see those shades on the eye, they're very nice. In particular, like I said, that M170, I love the mustardy tone to that. She's really captured that whole grunge thing. I think that's actually done really well, and I feel like we're getting into that moment of enjoying more kind of smaller palettes, more mindfully curated, and I feel like this is kind of linking in with stuff that people want. It's nice. I definitely may have looked at their website and looked at a few things and thought, one day I'll purchase from them. They're on my list is all I can say. And I feel like the more I see from them, the more intrigued I get. I haven't heard a single bad word about this brand, which in and of itself, quite interesting in my opinion. Then we have Kylie Cosmetics, and I feel like we haven't heard from them that much lately. They've kind of still been like churning out some stuff, but it's quite quiet. Like, remember when they came out initially, it was like such a big thing, probably at the height of the Kardashians, but they've somewhat fallen off, and I feel like the cosmetics have taken a little bit of a nosedive for it. That being said, I don't have much from Kylie Cosmetics. I did get one of her recent kind of grey toned palettes because my friend Daniela had it and she showed it to me, and I was like, well, that's actually quite interesting. So I don't dislike the brand. I'm not a massive fan of the Kardashians, Kylie Jenner, etc., but I'm not gonna like say anything negative about them. Why? Because I don't think it's very nice, and I just don't want to get involved in that sort of thing. What we're seeing here is their new Natural Blur Powder Foundation. This is coming out January 4th, so as you're watching, it will be available. They say it's a silky medium coverage formula which offers a breathable matte finish that hydrates, reduces shine, and smooths uneven texture. Made with skin-friendly ingredients, bamboo powder, samphira oil bioactive, aloe vera leaf extract. I do like the idea of the aloe vera leaf extract. You can customize your coverage by using it as a foundation, a finishing powder, or for touch-ups, and there are 30 shades. Now at the moment I haven't seen the full shade range, and I'm hoping that it is quite deep. Like, even just in some of those pictures, it does look like there's a decent shade range, so I'm gonna say well done on that. Like, I find that brands, when they're given like a powder foundation, they tend to kind of be a bit more sparing on the shade range, so I appreciate that. I do think it's quite funny that she's pictured herself in the actual powder foundation. Feels very Huda-esque, to which, you know, fair enough. I feel like the packaging in and of itself isn't really anything to talk about. It's the same sort of stuff that we've seen before. I appreciate that it comes with like a little powder cushion applicator thing. It looks grand. I amn't huge on the old powder foundations, even though I think they probably work pretty okay for me. I think it's probably because I'm quite dry naturally, so I worry about a powder foundation and kind of go, oh, I wonder about the story for this. But I do like and appreciate the fact that they're saying, well, this is kind of versatile. You can use it as a foundation, but you could also use it, you know, for setting, etc. It's not a bad one, and I can see this kind of making sense as part of the line. I just don't get wildly excited about Kylie Cosmetics. I also feel like over her last couple of releases, the packaging has gone, and it's not a big deal, but the packaging has gone a little bit more cheap. Like, it doesn't give that same looks thing, but it's keeping that slightly higher price tag. It's not like crazy expensive, I'm not saying that at all, but I feel like maybe they would need to look at that, although I'd say they're really concerned about the profit margins, in which case I'm not going to fault them for that. It looks fine. You know, there's nothing really negative to say about that. I'd like to know a little bit more about the skincare ingredients. That does sound quite interesting to me. I wouldn't say no if it ended up on my door, but I don't think I would personally go out and purchase this. It just isn't necessarily one for me. Then we have the Oob collection, and I'm not even sure if I'm saying that correctly, but there you go. The Oob, UBE collection from Huda Beauty, and it's essentially 3 products all in the same sort of pinky lilac-y tone. She keeps saying it's a lilac, and I'm like, no, that looks very pink to me. Anyways, there's 3 products. There's the Easy Bake Loose Baking and Setting Powder in Oob Birthday Cake. That's available for €41. There's the Blush Filter Oob Cream, and that's available for €29. And there's the Faux Filler Gloss Ooh Baby. It's 3 U's. I'm not really sure what the significance of that is, but there you go. And that's available for €23. But if you wanted the full collection with all 3 of those items, it's €79.05. So maybe let's talk about that baking and setting powder. It kind of makes sense. I think she's gotten a lot of success with her existing baking and setting powders. Now, I haven't personally tried them, but there you go. I do find it really funny that there's a lot of talk, particularly with her products lately, and it's not relevant to this, but she talks a lot about like blurring, and I'm like, there's nothing out there that will actually literally blur your skin. It will make it look blurred on camera, but not in reality. And I think sometimes people get a little bit confused on that, but there you go. Because she does say that this brightens and blurs skin. Yes, on camera. And that's fine. That's fine. That's literally what it does. It's the whole thing of like light hitting the powder in a particular way. It does look quite pretty. She says that it's a 2-in-1 wonder to seamlessly create a muted lid blush under the eyes while lifting and brightening. I feel like this is a smidgen late in that pink under eye was quite the thing about a year ago. And I'm not saying that it's still not relevant, but it reached its height at about that point. I'm not saying it still won't do well, but it's just kind of interesting to come out with it now. Although in saying that, it does take a while to formulate these particular things. Apparently there's vitamin E in this to moisturize and strengthen the skin barrier for a smooth application. So I guess if you have the existing shades and you like the look of this, it might be good for you. They claim that it's non-cakey, it doesn't crease. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Now I have fairly decent under eyes, but I'm aging. It's just a part of life. I've tried to go against it, but at this point, resistance is futile. So there you go. She claims that there's no flashback, so that's quite interesting. I appreciate that. And it's non-comedogenic. I love when they say it's suitable for all skin types. Oh, let my skin at it and let's see what the story is, because my dry skin is very annoying. Yeah, I mean, it sounds fine. There's nothing about this that is necessarily wildly interesting to me. Then in terms of the blush filter Oob cream, which again, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, but there you go. It's a high impact 2-in-1 hybrid liquid blush with buildable pigments. I'm a bit confused about how it's 2-in-1, but there you go. It delivers an air blushed luminescent glow. So I guess that there's a slight highlight in this. I don't know how I feel about that, but there you go. Apparently it's finely milled micro pearls. Pearls, the buzzword of 2024. It looks like we still have it. It's lightweight, melts onto skin, has a soft focus finish, it's buildable, blendable. These are existing products, but this is now like an extension to the range. So I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing, because people can make a more informed choice on this as to whether or not it's for them. I love how they're like, apply in smaller doses, working your way up to the desired pigmentation level and finish. God, yeah, if we learned anything about rare beauty back in the day, we learned some lessons. We've all been there. It looks like a very, very pretty shade. I don't hate it. I actually think it's quite nice. And I love how, like, in the photos, you see some of it being applied like to the eyes on one of the models. And yeah, I like that. Then in terms of the lip gloss, that's €23. I'm going to say it's not the worst priced item. It's grand. High shine, blurring and smoothing effect. It's not. Infused with vegan collagen. Well, collagen doesn't get into the skin barrier, or doesn't get through the skin barrier. The only way that it infuses or works with the skin is to actually ingest it. So I don't know why you're kind of bringing that as a selling point. It's just essentially, I guess, unless you're like saying, hey, it's a moisturizer, in which case, you know, fair enough. Like a nice moistening lip gloss is not a bad one. I mean, I don't really care. I don't get that like wild on lip glosses unless they're like really, really interesting. But I remember when her faux filler lip glosses came out initially, they sold really, really well, or they sold out actually pretty darn quickly. I don't know if that necessarily speaks to how effective they are or just how popular Huda is, but there you go. In terms of the full collection, there's nothing there that I'm going, oh my goodness, I must have this. Like, it's fine. It's fine. And I'm not saying that I'd forget about this, because, you know, makeup is my special interest and I remember all sorts of things, but it's not like something that I feel is necessarily filling a gap in the market. I appreciate the fact that she's using existing products and like expanding on them. I prefer if brands did that a little bit more, you know. There's a couple of brands that I can think of that really need to do that. Fenty Beauty, I'm talking about you. Not more lip glosses, Fenty. I need more of those lip stunner paints because they were fabulous. But just this particular kind of thing isn't wildly interesting to me, with the exception of, I think, the blush. I do quite like the look of that. That being said, I have a lot of blush. I don't mean to brag, but I have a lot of blush. So I know I don't need this. So I'm kind of like looking at this and saying, yeah, I feel okay. The price is pretty decent. It's not the worst, but there's nothing about this that is making me go, yeah, I'm going to give you my money. It may be like the post-Christmas thing of feeling both broke and broken, but I don't want to be parted with my money quite as easily. Do you know what I mean? Maybe that's just me. Then we have Beauty Moon Cosmetics, and I did say this before. They've been doing a lot of releases. Don't get me wrong, I really like the brand. I have a few little bits and pieces from them. I just don't want to see them go into the line of like overproduction. But this is essentially a palette that is made in memory of the owner's grandmother, which I'm like, oh, stop, because I'm such a sentimental fool. So I'm like, oh, that's actually really sweet. The palette is called Memoir. It's a 12-pan palette in which there are 6 rich matte shades, 1 stunning foil multichrome, and a mix of 2 mixed multichromes, so it's like there's 2 kind of shades in it, and 3 mixed duochromes. Each colour tells a story and holds a special meaning inspired by cherished memories of her beloved Nana, which I'm like, oh, stop, that's so sweet. So this is launching on the 8th of January, pretty soon, at 6 p.m. GMT, and it's available for £30, converts to €36, 37 US dollars. I quite like this. I'm getting this, by the way, in PR, so beware. There will be a swatching Sunday and probably a look with this particular palette. Do I necessarily feel like this is a one and done palette that I could build a whole look off of? I don't know. I feel like I'm going to have to challenge myself on that. I'm not the most creative, but I think you probably could. Now, I'm going to say this. I get a bit nervous about shades that have like several colours in one. Like that shade Reminisce, that has 4 shades in it. And I'm like, what am I meant to do with that? What do I just swirl? Or do I just like try and get the little edges? So I'm a bit kind of, I don't want to say dubious, but a bit like, how am I meant to do this? Because I'm not wildly talented, but I want to see what the story is there. It looks really, really pretty. Very, very nice. Again, really appreciate the fact that this is a sentimental thing for them. I like the shade Tomorrow. I really, really like that. Also, oh, sorry, I'm like looking at some of the names. Cardigan. I don't know why that's got me, but it really, really does. Too sweet. Oh, is this a Chitty Chitty Bang Bang reference? Did your granny like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang? In which case, we are kindred souls, because I also love Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. It was one of my like obsessive films when I was a child. I like the look of this. I keep looking at the shade Cherished, and in my brain it's reading Grunge, and that kind of intrigues me. I want to see what that swatch is like, because at the moment, as I'm filming, there's no swatches. So I'm very, very intrigued by this. There's also a couple of pigments coming out at the same time. They've only revealed 2 of them. I'm not going to show them here at the moment, simply because I'm tired, essentially, and I want to make less work for myself. But again, I do worry a little bit that the brand might go too much into the realm of overproduction, and I totally get that, you know. This is very much a love for the brand owner. You can tell they are passionate about makeup, but sometimes that can translate into having several different ideas and kind of running forward with all of them, when maybe a slightly more balanced, considered approach is helpful. Like, this is a really nice idea. The fact that this is a tribute, this is a memoir, I think that's really, really beautiful. I like the look of this. I'm really intrigued by that shade My Sunshine, because a yellow is very, very difficult to get right, particularly that sort of like, it's almost like a neon yellow. I wonder, these are normally very like powdery. There tends to be a lot of fallout with those types of shades. I'm not saying this about Beauty Moon Cosmetics. I'm saying this about any brand that does yellow. It's literally just how it is. Those sort of shades are a little bit more fally outy. Nothing bad about it. That shade Selfless, very, very nice. I'm kind of just thinking of a few things that I'd like to do with it. Do I wish there was a black? Yes, but I feel that about all the things forever and always, but it wouldn't have made sense in this particular instance. Yeah, I'm very excited to try this, because as I said, I have a few things from Beauty Moon Cosmetics. I have their sort of like glitter gel things. I have some lip glosses that the gorgeous Wilma Fingerdo gifted me. Mwah, thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it. But I haven't tried any of their eyeshadows. And I have been kind of side-eyeing them. They did a really, really interesting collaboration with Piglet GC a couple of months ago, and I thought that that was quite interesting. I feel like this is going to be one of those high pigment formulas, so you're going to want to be quite brave in how you're dealing with it. So I'll have to figure out how to work with it. I would imagine probably working from darkest to light. Just thinking out loud. But I think that the price point, £30. £30 for a 12-pan eyeshadow palette in which there are multi-chromes and some shimmers. How How did that happen? Because that's £2.50 per shade. That is really, really good. And even if I can't create a whole look just with that and I have to dip in with other things, I feel like the value of that is pretty darn good. I mean, I can't really say anything negative. The price point is good. The colours are interesting. I like the general intent behind this. Yeah, as I said, I'm getting it in PR, so you'll soon see what the story is. We'll do a swatching Sundays. We'll do a whole video on it. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, because I think it's quite nice. Then we have further extensions to existing lines. This is e.l.f. Cosmetics, and this is their Finest Fleck Glitter Eyeshadows. These came out around about the same time as the Patrick Tad duos, and people were trying to present these as dupes. Look, you know my feelings on dupes. I think that the word is silly in and of itself, and it's not actually dupe. They're not the same formula. They might give you a somewhat similar look, but they actually don't, because they work in a very, very different way, but I won't get into that. They're fine. They're actually quite nice. I would say they're more duping the likes of Urban Decay's Midnight Cowboy, etc. These are $6 each. They've added in 6 new shades, which I have to say look really, really nice. I have one of the shades because my lovely friend Daniela gave it to me, and I will say it doesn't have a very gritty formula. It's ever so slightly. So I would say more like tap it on than try to brush it on. That's just my kind of 2 cents on that. I think some of the shades here are actually quite nice. I think my favorite one is probably Pop Off Pink. That's quite interesting to me. Do I think that this is necessary? I suppose it depends on who you ask, really. It's great to have an affordable brand. e.l.f. are generally pretty darn good quality. I will say, when I was out with Daniela just before Christmas, so many of these of the existing line had sold out. Like, it was nuts. These were super, super popular. As to whether or not, you know, they necessarily reflect in the same way, I don't know. It's grand. Like, there's nothing about this that I'm sitting here going, oh my goodness, I must have this. Yeah, I can't see myself necessarily running out and getting this, because I feel like I already have the stuff that they're attempting to dupe. Do you know what I mean? And I'm quite happy with that. So getting this would only be like for foolish reasons of, let's compare this. I don't want to do that. I think that's silly. That's wasteful. I'll use what I have. Thank you very, very much. However, if you do like a little bit of sparkle, you do like a little bit of glitter, this might be the one to go for, because like I said, e.l.f. is not a bad brand. Their quality is usually pretty darn good. And I mean, even the little packaging is actually quite nice. It doesn't feel like it's a more affordable brand, if that makes sense. Like, it is quite nice, quite compact. Yeah, it's grand. I don't really have much else to say on this other than decent idea. I just fucking hate dupes, really. That's as nice as I can say it. Next on the affordable cutting block, we actually have Sephora, and they have a couple of different things. There's the Mega Mix eyeshadow palettes, and then there's the Mini Mix eyeshadow palettes. But I'm going to start by talking about the Mega Mix palette. Essentially, the way that they're done is that you can kind of slot them together to make a bigger palette. But there's 4 styles available right now, and they're retailing for $18 each. I mean, yeah. Here's the thing, right? I don't look at Sephora's own brand makeup and get wildly excited about it when I see it on the website. I feel like they don't take the best pictures of them. But when I was in Sephora, I know, I was in a Sephora when I was in Newcastle, and I have to say, some of Sephora's own brand stuff is actually pretty decent. Like, it's pretty good, all things considered. Now, I do feel like these pictures wash out these to quite some extent, you know? Like, I don't look at this and kind of go, oh my god, this is like super, super interesting. There's a little bit of this, particularly in the pink toned palette. It's meant to be a pink toned palette. That centre shade makes me think of Essence or Catrice. You know how they've done kind of shades like that from like the Lion King thing? And the green tone palette you'd think that I'd be like really into, not so much. Do you know what's annoying? No swatches. No swatches, so we're going to have to use a little imagination. Let's have a little look at the Rebellious Rosy Nude palette. I mean, they've shown it on the eye. This is what I'm saying of, it doesn't look like much in the palette, but when it translates to on the eye, that actually looks pretty nice. Or have I lost my mind? I might have lost my mind. I don't really know. It looks really pretty. Like, there's some nice kind of glittery shades in there. There's some nice shimmers. It looks like there's a nice level of depth in there. Even there's some nice lighter tones to blend things out. And for what, $18? That's not bad. That's like $2 per shade. And like I said, you can mix and match it. So if you liked this or liked little components of some of those trio bits, you could add in other things, which I like that. Maybe that's just me, and I'm from that generation of, do you remember that drawing drawing thing where you could make little fashion outfits where you could change like the head and the torso and the legs. I'm that generation, so I'm like, yes, I like this, mix and match it, lovely. And then when we're looking at the more kind of grey toned cool nude, oh, that's kind of nice. That's kind of nice. I feel like this is going to go under the radar and people aren't going to realise that it does look kind of pretty. Can I also just say that eye look in the top right? Oh, I like that. That is interesting, and it doesn't look like it'd be wildly difficult to do either. Ooh, kudos to them. I like that. Again, very annoyed that there's no swatches, but seeing it in the eyes does give a little bit of information there. I like that. There's almost like an olive tone to this, or have I lost my mind? There's a little bit of like an olive tone base to some of these shades, which you don't see that often. I like that. I think that's really, really pretty. Probably the one that I'm the least bothered about is the fiery warm nude, because like we've a million of those. That being said, it looks nice on the eyes. The shade down in the middle row to the right, I want to see that swatched because that does look like it has potential. This is what I'm saying about Sephora. It doesn't look great on the website, but then when you see it in store and you actually get to shove your disgusting little fingers into it, your little raccoon hands, oh my god, it actually tends to look a lot better. So there's a part of me that's like, do you know what, this isn't bad. I don't need it. I don't need it, so I'm not going to get it. But I don't think this is bad, particularly for those who are like newer to makeup. They're just looking to build up a kit. It's not a bad one. The green one, you know how I feel about green. So this is, I think, what they're wild khaki nude. I get where they're going with the nude. I weirdly like that kind of navy blue in there. It kind of makes sense. There's not enough green in here. Not enough green. I do like the more kind of khaki tones. I think it's very, very nice. I think they needed a little bit more like those little pops of brighter green just to make it that little bit more kind of like khaki army green. Beautiful eye looks. Very, very nice. Quite simple to do. So I do appreciate that they're kind of showing the versatility of it. Again, I appreciate the fact that you can mix and match that. Would I get any of these? Probably not, but I think they're pretty good for people who are newer to makeup, because for whatever reason, people who are newer to makeup are starting off on quite expensive palettes, and I think you're gonna have to cut your teeth on the less expensive ones, and you know, get used to the fact that you're gonna do an eye and it's gonna go wrong and you're gonna have to wipe it off and not be thinking, Jesus, I'm just after wasting a bunch of Natasha Denona on my eyelid, you know? Or maybe that's just me in my generation. I do realise I've just lumped a bunch of 30-something-year-olds in with me. Hey, sorry if you disagree. Feel free to jump off of that boat. But I feel like sometimes it's helpful to have a more affordable palette when you're experimenting with things and just trying to figure things out. And the quality is pretty good from what I've seen, you know. I think if I was starting off, if I was like a 17, 18-year-old and I was starting off with makeup, I probably would be looking at this sort of thing. For a lot of us, we're like, Teresa, we're past that point. That's grand. That's grand. I'm just twirling away with my little hoodie string here. That's grand. But you know, sometimes people look for recommendations of more affordable things, and that might be the way to go. And what I appreciate is, along with the Mega Mix, they have the Mini Mix eyeshadow palette. So basically, you know how I was saying that you can mix and match? You could also mix and match these in as well. So they're 3-pan eyeshadow palettes. They're $10 each, and some of them have duochromes in them. These are the ones that I think are really king interesting, and there's part of me that is looking at one in particular that I quite like. I'm a bit annoyed that not all 6 of these have been swatched, which is a little bit annoying, but I think for the price it's pretty good. Like $10, yes, it is working out a little bit more expensive per eyeshadow. However, there's some more interesting sort of finishes here. So even if you're looking at the swatches here, I want you to look at Ethereal Lilac. How pretty does that look? I know it's only 3 pans, but you can't tell me that that doesn't look really, really pretty, and it registers as beautiful across all of the skin tones. So I'm super, super interested. It is making me kind of wonder, you know, if I have a lighter base underneath, like a white primer versus a black primer, it's probably going to pop more with a black primer. That is looking beautiful. Like $10 for those 3. Do I think all of these trios are necessarily created equally? No, I don't. I think that there's some of them that are a little bit more boring than others, and unfortunately 2 of them aren't actually swatched, one of which is the green one. So how very dare them. I'm quite annoyed about that, but you know, I can't have it all. Let us talk about the peachy one first. That feels quite safe. There's kind of aspects of this that reminds me a little bit of, I'm going to bring up an old memory for a lot of us. Do you remember, oh god, it'd be about maybe 6 or 7 years ago, that Colourpop did this peach palette, and it was, I believe, a 12 pound palette, and there was like pressed glitter and stuff in it. I think it was like called Peach Pop or something like that, who even knows. But it was actually, it kind of gives me a similar vibe, even though it's only £3. I do appreciate that you have a lighter tone in there, a deeper tone in there of a matte, and then that really nice little shimmery glitter. It's not quite a glitter, it's more like a kind of dispersed shimmer, but that's quite nice. Then in terms of the khaki one, that shade on the left hand side, what is that? I want to see what that is, because on the eye, see on the eye, look at how pretty that is. I want to swatch that. I want to see what the story is of that. Why did they not swatch that? Why did they not swatch that? I'm actually quite interested in that. And this is what I'm saying. This is kind of what I wanted, that kind of khaki. That's really pretty. $10. I don't hate it. I don't need it. Let us remind me that I do not need it, but I quite like that. That's quite nice. Then in terms of the kind of little Beyond Brown palette, that's kind of cute. It's a nice little cool toned palette. Don't have anything negative to say about that. I kind of feel like, you know how there's that shade over on the right hand side that's like a darker shimmer? I personally feel like that shouldn't have been a shimmer. That should have been a matte. Maybe that's a me issue, but that's just what I feel, and I'm speaking my truth. Probably the one that I'm not as interested in is Boss Berry, but they had loads of pictures of that up. They do have like a duochrome shade in there, as you can see over on the right hand side, but I feel like it's a duochrome shade that a lot of us have at this point, so we probably, let's be real, don't need it. It's just, I don't quite get kind of that, is it even a berry shade? It feels very browny to me in the middle, and then the two shades to either side, it doesn't feel like it corresponds very well to me. Then in terms of the Daring Blue Dusk, I quite like the look of that. That's quite pretty. I do wish they didn't have that brown in the middle. I know that sounds really weird, but the brown muddies it, because even if you see it on the eye on the bottom left hand side, that brown seems to muddy it. So I feel like they should have put in like a pale blue, like a really periwinkle blue. That would have been beautiful, because some of those shades, they look really nice. But the one that's really got me is that Ethereal Lilac. Look at how gorgeous that is on the eye, and they're all shimmery shades. That one, my friends, in my opinion, is the one to get. That is proper ethereal, and for $10 to get those 3 shades, I do not think that's bad at all. I wouldn't be surprised if that one sells out, because out of all 6 of them, this is the most interesting. And you could, as I said, kind of slot that in with the other mega mixes if you were interested in it, but for me, this is definitely the winner. Out of all 6 of those palettes, I think they're totally fine. I personally obviously don't need them, but if my makeup collection died tomorrow, which it won't, but if I needed to build from scratch, I would probably think about that Ethereal Lilac, because I quite like the tones in that. I think that's quite interesting, and the formula there looks very, very pretty, so I'm not against it. And can I just say, I'm really enjoying Sea Beauty these days, and this is new. This is Anthemy's Living Creature Compendium 2.0 Moon Series. It's available right now for pre-order over on Sea Beauty Mall. You can use my code BLEH. That's not actually the code, but I just hate saying it, but there you go. Anyways, there's 6 palettes. Now, they're not all the same price, simply because there's different formulas that we're talking about here. So for example, the Starry Unicorn palette is €36.95. That's because it's all mattes, so that's the cheapest one. Then we have the Dart Frog palette. That's €46.95. That has 6 mattes and 4 shimmers. The Furry Tarantula palette is €46.95. That has 5 mattes and 5 shimmers. The Icefield Ermine palette is €42.95 because it has 5 mattes and 5 shimmers. And the Midnight Lamb palette is €46.95. You have 7 mattes and 3 shimmers. And finally, the Black Cat palette is €46.95. It has 6 mattes and 4 sparkling shades, of which they do outline that there's duochromes and multichromes. If you have said, Teresa, I couldn't possibly choose, I want all 6 of these, you silly goose, don't be doing that. But it's €226.95 if you wanted to have all 6, which is quite a considerable saving if you are crazy enough to do that. It is available right now for pre-order. Let's have a little chat about each of these kind of one by one. So obviously, if we start off with the Starry Unicorn, that's pretty, that's fine, that's grand. What I will say is I have one Anthemy palette that I did get as part of the Sea Beauty Mall haul. I know, I'll never stop talking about that. That was bizarre to me. I will say high pigment, but the fallout is huge. Like, there's fallout for days, which I don't mind. I personally don't give a shit about that, but I know for some people, they like to do their eyes last. Huh, you are magnificent if you do that, quite frankly. Teach me your ways. I don't have the bravery to do that, because I think if I did a whole base and then put on eye makeup only to have fallout, I think I would just crumble. I'm not a very resilient person, it seems. In terms of the colour story here, it's fine. I mean, we've seen it a million times before. It's literally a rainbow. If you're getting this, it's because you like the formula and you like the artwork, because it has an adorable unicorn on it. I do like the formula. I don't think there's anything like bad about it. I just personally wouldn't go out and get this. I don't think it's a necessity. In terms of the frog palette, I feel like it's a little bit disjointed. I get what they're coming from in that, like, you know, frogs have all of these strange colours and poisons and blah, blah, blah. But I would kind of struggle a little bit with this. And I feel like those oranges, it's not that they're super close to each other, but that orange and that red, if you combined it, it would make that second orange. So I feel like it wasn't entirely necessary. I also feel like the shimmers in this aren't as amazing as you see in other Anthemy palettes. So this one, love the packaging, because look at that adorable little frog. I think that's how they're getting us, through the adorable packaging. But the inside's not really my thing. However, weirdly you get onto the furry tarantula, and I am so sorry if anyone has a spider phobia. Skip ahead. I'm so sorry. I quite like this colour story. I don't 100% love it, and let me explain to you for why. And yes, I have been watching a lot of Gavin and Stacey. Don't hate me. It's the yellow that slightly throws me off. I don't know why that's there. I think maybe a more periwinkle blue in there would make a little bit more sense, but it's like almost, it's like about a 9 out of 10. I quite like that. I don't feel like those shimmers are, again, anything wildly interesting, but I like some of those mattes. Like, they're looking nice. And that blue, the pigment on that, if it's anything like the Anthemy palette that I had before, Jesus Christ, it will stay new. It's crazy. This next one though, oh my god, the ermine one, the Icefield ermine. Love this. This is my favorite one. I think that is absolutely so beautiful, because yes, there's a multi-chrome in there, and I swear to god, it is staring into my soul. That is beautiful. There isn't a single shade in there that I'd be like, oh, I'm not really sure if that should be in there. Like, even that brownie shade, I like the greigey tone to that. I think that's actually really, really, I just kind of sweep that all over the lid and put like that multi-chromey bit on top and be done. Like, that is, ooh, that is beautiful. And that's one of the less expensive ones. I think that was like €42.95. Yeah, €42.95. I like that one. I think that's one of my favorite ones. Then we have the Midnight Lamb palette. Here's the thing, there's something about this that screams the 80s. I don't know what lambs had to do with the 80s. I kind of love this. It's so weird and so wild. I love that electric pink, that pop of that chartreusey yellowy green. I actually think that's really, really nice. I do feel in ways that the shimmers don't seem as special, but I quite like those mix of mattes, and that black looks as dark as my soul. In terms of the Black Cat palette, I like the idea of it more than I like the execution. Like, I fucking love the outside of the palette, but the jumble of the shades, I don't really get. I get that the green's in there for like their weird little green eyes, yeah, little weirdos, and I have 3 black cats. Well, technically Sarge is more like black with a little white bit, but we'll call her a black cat. That's how she likes to identify. But I feel like this isn't quite, it doesn't quite make sense to me, and there's something weirdly, strangely like a dark Christmas about it. Maybe it's because it's this time of the year. So for me, I'm like, I prefer the packaging to the content. Like, I mean, that's a lot of palettes. That's 6 palettes. I personally, like, even if I was hypothetically given another $300 voucher for a C Beauty Mall, which by the way, that was insane to me, I'm still processing it, I wouldn't get all 6 of these. I just feel like not all of them are as interesting. Personally, I feel like the unicorn palette wasn't necessary. I feel like a few of the other ones are a little bit disjointed or don't have that like wow factor in terms of the shimmers that I have seen Anthemy do before and do really, really well. So I'm kind of like, this feels not as executed or as well executed as it could be. But the 2 palettes that I think personally are the best are, in reverse order, the Tarantula one. Again, I'd only modify and change it by 1 shade, and the Ermine palette. I think those 2 are absolutely stunning. At a push, the Midnight Lamb I quite like. simply because of the vibes of it. There's something about it that just feels fun to me. I wanted to like the Black Cat more. I really did, but I just feel like the execution wasn't there. I do like looking at C Beauty these days. I like their formulas, I like the sort of shimmers, and I feel like we're getting a lot more interesting concepts from them. So I'm not, and can I just say also, much better than the Heinz thing that we were talking about last week. That was weird. That was so strange. Yeah, I like this. I'm not going to run out and get it simply because I don't need it, but I like quite a few of these. Then we have Bobbi Brown, and obviously we're starting to see a few things to hail in the new year and the new lunar year, etc. This is apparently exclusive to Selfridges, and this is their Lunar Lights eyeshadow quad, and it's available for €65. Personally, I feel like that's a little bit too much, but there you go. In saying that though, in saying that, I talked about Mob Beauty at the beginning, and that's $64, which is what, about 50-ish euro? Yeah, no, can't compare, because I'd prefer to have the Mob Beauty, but there you go. Anyways, what's happening here is it seems that you have two mattes and then you have two shimmers. So one of the shimmers is Firecracker, which kind of looks interesting. It's a silver shimmer with a rainbow pearl, and there's Pearl Rose, which is a warm pink shimmer, and that looks okay. However, those swatches are the most lackluster things that I've ever seen. There's nothing about Bobbi Brown that has traditionally wildly interested me. However, when I was at my friend Daniela's, I know she's a terrible influence, she had a few Bobbi Brown palettes, which I was like, oh, that's a bit strange, but she had some of their moonshine kind of finishes in them, and they are very, very, very pretty. So the question is, would I spend €65 on this? No! If it was half price, I actually would think about it, because some of those finishes were quite nice. But am I hell ever going to pay full price? No! No, I have enough stuff in my collection to dupe it, so I definitely don't need it. The most Lunar New Year thing about this is probably the packaging. Like, that's quite pretty. Why do Bobbi Brown get like interesting concepts and then ruin them? Remember what they did with, like, was it Tetris? Was it Tetris? Was it Pac-Man? I don't, they did Pac-Man, I know that, and they did they did Powerpuff Girls. And somehow had it be devoid of colour, which is just like, how do you do that as a concept? And the whole idea of lunar lights, you could have done something really interesting with that, and then they give us this. But I guess, you know, that's the Bobbi Brown demographic. That's the sort of thing they're interested in. It's just not for me. And then this is one that is coming soon, and this is from Beauty Creations. It is a collaboration with Polly Pocket. I am a child of the 90s. I was born in 1990, and I absolutely adored and still do love Polly Pocket. Loved them. Loved them, loved them, loved them. Such fabulous memories. I do personally feel that Beauty Creations has kind of been doing a little bit too much. They did a SpongeBob thing just before Christmas, which was at a really strange time because they had an advent calendar, but it was like released mid-December. It was very strange. This hasn't dropped yet. It just says coming soon on their website. I think some of it is up on Urban Outfitters, etc. So essentially what we're seeing in this is an eyeshadow palette, no price on that yet. There's a lip oil set, which you can get for $12, or you can get each of these separately for $7. There's single shadows, which actually look quite pretty. There's two different ones. There's 90s Doll and Tiny and Cute, and that's $6 each. There's the Polly Pink blush for $6. There's a fun size setting spray for $5, which I assume is like a small setting spray. And there's the Here Comes the Fun bundle for $24, or you can get the full PR Box makeup gift set for $4, which isn't bad. Let's talk about, what do we talk about first? Maybe that eyeshadow palette. Look, it's very done to have pinks and browns together. They work, don't get me wrong, they absolutely do work. I'm not really sure why there's a white in there. I think maybe we could have done with like a deeper pink matte. I mean, I'm just saying. It's grand. No swatches, couldn't find any swatches, but again, you know, this hasn't fully released yet. There's nothing about it that really gets me. In terms of the lip oil, don't worry guys, it's pH. Full of nonsense is what it is. I hate pH. age stuff, like, so let us not talk too much on that. The Polly Pink blush, right? So I associate Polly Pocket with the 90s, but I know it was developed like in the 80s, and this blush captures that. I really like that. Do I think I'd look ridiculous wearing it? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I'm also not going to buy anything from Beauty Creations because their customer service was terrible. So I'm not getting anything from them. I feel like they could have done a little bit more in the packaging. It's not as like whatever as it could have been. In saying that though, it does kind of capture that 90s feel. The setting spray I can't really talk on simply because I don't know what sort of ingredients are in it, but I like the bottle. I actually weirdly like the bottle. There's a really toxic part of me that's like, oh, what if you bought it, tipped out the contents and put your own setting spray in there? Which, by the way, that's stupid. Don't do that, Teresa. Let those silly intrusive thoughts go out of your little brain. Yeah, I don't think that's bad. I do like the little shadows. They're fine. Again, I feel like this is kind of, I hate saying the word dupe. Also, why does it sound like it starts with a J but it starts with a D? Language is weird. It does feel like it's a dupe of the Urban Decay stuff, and it's $6, so it's not bad. I will say that they probably haven't photographed it in the best way. It's one of those ones that you probably have to see under a couple of different lights to necessarily appreciate it. Yeah, in all, considering I love Polly Pocket, do I want this collection? No, there's nothing in this that is making me kind of go, yeah, I'm going to give you my money. And it's not just because it's Beauty Creations and I don't like their customer service, but beyond the packaging, I feel like this is just a bit lazy. Like, there's nothing really thought through on this. I'll be honest with you lads, I'd prefer to take that money and buy an actual Polly Pocket. Or Sylvanian Families. I really, really like Sylvanian Families, like to a disturbing degree. And I don't care. I will buy those things for myself now as an adult. It doesn't matter. Youth goes on forever. It just feels like they took the Polly Pocket logo and just kind of slapped it onto this. It does feel quite lazy as a collab. And Beauty Creations have gotten a lot of collabs in the last while. They had, as I said, the SpongeBob one. They also had a Corpse Bride one not that long ago. Yeah, just it's not for me is all I can say. Bit disappointing, really. And the very last thing that we have is a sneak peek. I have little to no information on it, but I'm kind of interested in this. This is Makeup Forever, and it is their new HD Skin Perfecting Powders. The blur experts at Makeup Forever. Look, you know my feelings on the whole blur thing. Nothing actually blurs you, it's just a photo thing. Anyways, whatever. The blur experts at Makeup Forever introduce powders that are the perfect final touch to your complexion routine. Meet the ultimate duo for achieving a flawless canvas thanks to our formula that delivers an instant, long-lasting, multi-dimensional blur with a feather-light texture that remains undetectable on the skin. Here's the thing, right? Anything that I have from Makeup Forever, I genuinely, really, really enjoy. Like, they're called Makeup Forever for a good reason. Like, I feel like I could use their makeup forever. Like, it's just a damn good brand. Do I necessarily kind of think of sexiness when I look at their stuff? No. I think of it as being more like a good, firm staple, and they have been known for their HD finishing powders, like the loose powders, for quite some time. So actually having this as like not a loose but like a packed powder, that's the word, isn't it? I don't know, I'm a bit tired. Having that in that format actually feels like this would be a little bit easier for makeup artists to carry around. Maybe that's just me, because like it's going to be a little bit easier to carry around. I'm kind of interested in this. Like, I suspect the shade range is going to be fantastic. The formula is going to be great. They don't like go massive on their packaging simply because they're like, why would we put a lot of money into a packaging when it's all about the product that's inside? And I kind of go for that. A lot of their stuff is just really, really good. Like, let's just say, if there's anything that I ever run out of from Makeup Forever, I'd probably go out and get it again. You know, they're just a good brand, and I'm interested to see what the story is on that. So who'd have known that I'd get kind of excited about like a pressed powder? That's the word. Pressed, packed. Jesus. Talk about losing my mind. But there you go. Anyways, my gorgeous friends, that is it. It's a slightly quieter week, and you know what, I'm cool with it. But I do have my favorite comment, and this is from the lovely Jen Furlow. I do want to say it's not my favorite comment because of the content. I'm not saying I liked this because you said that you were sick. I'm not like sitting there kind of like, ha ha ha, isn't it great that Jennifer is sick? No, I'm just like, it is my favorite because I wanted to give you a hug. Well, maybe not me give you a hug, but maybe like have my cats give you a hug, that sort of thing. Anyways, Jen said, how lovely to wake up just seeing your beautiful face. Been sick the past few days and just broke my second fever. Cats are making many biscuits as we watch you together. And do you know what I really loved? And I'm seeing this more and more in my comment section, is you guys interacting with each other. And oh my God, that just fills my stupid heart, because that's exactly what I want over here. I want us to be like super supportive of each other and just care. Just care about each other. There's not enough niceness in the world. And I saw a few people just interacting with Jen and saying that, you know, they hope that she felt better. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is how the internet should be. It's just really nice. And like, that's down to you guys. You guys are fantastic. Like, I so appreciate it. So there's several reasons as to why that was my favourite comment. But there you go. Anyways, my gorgeous friends, that is it. I do have Us Watching Sundays coming tomorrow. And it is more girl cult. Sorry, I do have, I just got obsessed with girl cult. So there's a lot of that. I'm so sorry. I swear to God, I'm veering more towards sea beauty. Is all I can say. There's some nice ones in that. So do keep a little eye out for that. But that's essentially it. Thank you so much for watching. Do please like, comment and subscribe. All that sort of thing. Comment, share, subscribe. All that. I don't know. I'm running out of words. You know. Share it, whatever. STDs, yeah, you know the line, because I can't remember it. I'm such a success. Anyways, my gorgeous friends, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.